Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 196 of the Pika Serenity podcast. I am, as always, one of your hosts, Emerson, and joining me, we have my co-host, Anomaly.
Hello.
And it has been a couple of weeks since we did our
It's
last.
been it's been one.
It
It's
has
been
been
one.
2 weeks since our last episode.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it
Oh,
has.
darn.
We missed last
Oh,
week.
I-
But
oh, you're right. Okay,
yeah,
yes, we missed one
but
week. Fair enough.
that's actually kind of convenient because War Within Alpha came out. Catching the hype on that would have been kind of nice. But
Yeah.
the Master of Harmony tree, which is the final hero talent tree for Brewmaster and Mistweaver, went in with that, so we have that now. And it was busted; like it just wasn't implemented in the
Yeah.
initial alpha. It has now been fully implemented. So we have a lot more information on that now,
Yep.
as well as Season 4 released this week. So
Yes, we have a lot to talk about.
we're gonna talk about Vault of the Incarnates for the first time in a while.
Oh,
And
God.
maybe something about the dungeons, like what they did to my boy Chargath.
Or just how, what is it? Dawn of the Infinite is
Oh
just
yeah,
on hard mode. It's wild.
hard mode Dottie, where it gets harder if you wipe.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So let's jump into how is season 4 been treating you? And
Yeah. It's a season 4 again, I guess. We've sort of now it's part duh. Second time we're going through this. So we got to go back and do Vault of the Incarnates. So haven't been in there in about a year, I'll say. It was interesting. I had forgotten. So a couple things. Number one, I'm not healing this tier, so I'm playing Hunter. So DPSing. So it's a much different approach, I'll say. And it's nice to go back. Heroic, we did so the way that my guild sort of clears this stuff nowadays is we'll do a heroic run, then we'll do a full normal run, and then any leftover time we'll hit mythic when we can, right? Like the idea is we're not clearing mythic this first week anyway. And I guess in a couple weeks we'll be able to go wherever we want and we'll finish the achievements at that point, right?
yeah,
Um, so it was good to get back in there. We full cleared heroic and normal, and then killed the first boss on mythic in our first raid night, and then we went back. We're still doing mythic fire so got a mythic fire kill in, and then proceeded to wipe to Teros and Dathi or no Senarth, yeah. Um, got Teros down, which after about 8 wipes, and then Senarth we're just bad. Like people, it's just, in general, we just did not. It's just bad. Like we're just not good. We had a bad raid.
that,
I'll say.
we had some people just need to play better moments towards the end of season 3. Some real heart to heart, like please just play the fuck better.
Yeah.
Kind of stuff. And I mean, our second raid is tonight, so we haven't finished yet, but we are kind of blitzed it. We did a normal run on Wednesday, is like an extra raid night, but we cleared it in like 40 minutes. So
Yeah.
and then people went back to doing dungeons. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then went on our normal raid night and we did heroic, very straightforward. We were able to do some stuff that was like clearly the tuning on this is lower, which is good, and I'm happy with that because we were able to like zero platform Dathia.
Yeah. We
on
did
heroic.
one. Yeah, we ended up doing one platform on Dathia in heroic. So, but we definitely zeroed it on normal. Like
Yeah.
just blitzed it.
And then we cleared the first 3 on mythic. So we did what is that? Aranog, Council, and Eros. Eros is a fun fight. I like that fight.
Oh, we got council. Because we got a trinket. People are freaking out. Sorry.
Yeah. A trinket. Well, we got a normal version of the
Yeah.
but which we gave to a healer so that they could be a buff bot.
Nice.
And then we went to do Fire Act, but we actually ran into a combination of weak aura and internet issues. So we switched weak auras from. So Fire Act specifically, we used liquid weak auras. Every other boss in Mirror Seal, we used Northern Sky.
Oh.
Fire Act, we used the liquid ones. But for season 4, we've deleted all of that. We're just using straight Northern Sky, all 3 raids, which meant that we got into Fire Act and all of our intermission assignments were different.
Nice. Yeah, because yeah.
The week hours work
We,
differently.
it's so funny because we did the exact opposite, which is like we use Northern Sky up until Firac and then basically Liquid, and now it's only Liquid weak ores is like the only thing
Yeah.
we're using. So that's awesome. We did it backwards.
So we went to uh we ended up also having a healer DC like 3 pulls in, and we were just like, okay, we have like not that much raid time left, so we're gonna call it here. And I went and I replaced that weak core with the liquid intermission weak core, and I'm like 99% sure it's gonna work tonight. So, you know,
Nice.
fingers crossed.
Nice.
But yeah, it's been pretty chill, and I'm glad about that. We had the experience in Shadowlands season 4 of like letting people play whatever they wanted, and like a bunch of people were all swapping and all that stuff, and it was a disaster. So
Yeah.
we've kept this much closer to a regular raid tier, but like the only thing that we really are like, you guys need to do this outside of raid is this week they had to get the normal run in. Didn't matter if it was with us or with somebody else, and 4 dungeons. Like,
Yeah.
and then after this week, it's just like get some dungeons done, so that you're not holding back the raid with no eye level.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we shifted and the funny thing is like our shifts aren't because people wanted to, like it's essentially people, well, I guess it was because people wanted to, but it's like we're moving roles like officially.
Okay,
Right.
yeah.
So like it wasn't just like, oh, I don't want to heal this tier. It was more like I don't want to heal ever again after Fire X. So we'll see how that goes because the Mistweaver stuff's also kind of cool coming up. The one thing I want to talk about just real quick before we get off this is Blizzard added, I don't think we ever deep dive. We talked a little bit about this, but they added a new dinar like system for the season called
Yes.
bullions. And basically the idea is like you can buy all of the trinkets and weapons, I guess, from each tier. Um and I guess some other maybe special cantrip items for 2 bullion. So basically, you get 1 bullion a week. Every other week, you can buy a new item. And my question is like, do you like this system?
So Dinar, for those that maybe need a refresher on where that landed,
Yep.
Dinar required 30 unique boss kills in order to
Yep.
get your first Dinar, which got you 1 item at the base normal item level that you then spent there were special like normal and heroic and mythic upgrade, or I guess heroic and mythic upgrade items in
Yep.
season 4 of Shadowlands that you use to turn it into a mythic version of the item. This is an item that like you get 1 bullion per week just by doing the raid content.
Yep.
And then so like every 2 weeks you're gonna be able to buy an item. So it's much more free. Like before it was like minimum 3 weeks if you full cleared every raid.
Yeah.
And then the next one was like 2 weeks, and the one after that was like a week. And you had all of them, but you only had 3, right?
Yeah. For the entire season.
This is going to be much more free. I like that it's much more free. That makes it a lot less stressful. People like it feels bad. We had some situations where like people were like, I'm going to buy this best in slot trinket with my dinar. And then
Yeah.
we just like got 4 or 5 of them over the
Yeah.
course of like our kills. And then there's the feel bad of like, well, I would have spent it on something else if I had known we were
Yeah.
going to get all of these trinkets that we never saw in the original season.
Exactly.
So I like
Yeah.
that it's more free because it helps paper over that feel bad with like, okay, well, if we get a bunch of them, you can just buy another item.
Yeah. It's not that big of a deal. Yeah. Because you get so much of this. Yeah. No, I'm a fan of like that, and then like the speed at which you get it to.
Yeah.
Because like I will say that like for at least for hunters, right? And Mistweaver sort of falls into this is like, or not really, but Hunter definitely does this. Is like all the best in slot items are from Vault.
Yeah.
Like the ring set is really
The
good. The
CCT
weapon,
trinket from Kurog.
no, it's actually, well, I mean the
Really?
whispering. It's
Oh, is
the
it
council
whispering?
whispering, and then technically it's the trinket out of Dottie, but you could also use Grief Torch. And
Oh, okay. Yep.
Um, but but no, so it's like it's funny that it's all there. And like the weapon from Razageth is like the best in slot
Of
by a
course.
mile.
The
Yeah,
first legendary of this expansion.
exactly. That wasn't really legendary. And so like it sucks because I number one, we didn't see the weapon on any of our 2 kills on normal or heroic, and like
Yeah.
we probably won't see mythic. Like maybe next clear we'll see mythic, but even then
I was
it'll be
watching. I watched when Liquid was pulling Mythic
Razia.
Razageth on Tuesday.
Yeah.
No, we're not playing that this week. Well,
Yeah.
if
No.
we somehow get there, which would be a miracle because Diurna is still pretty hard. Kurog's pretty hard.
Yeah.
We're just gonna skip Dathia. We're not doing Dathia this week. If we've reached Razageth, we might like spend a couple pulls in phase one, just like reminding people how the fight works, and then
Yeah.
call it a night. But that's it.
Yeah. No. So that's the thing. So it's just so it's nice that you can just sort of purchase that stuff and then you can upgrade it all the way
Yeah,
through. So like I basically saved all my crests because like I'll buy the weapon on Monday and then just upgrade
yeah.
it to max and then forget about it, right?
So
So
I'm playing Blood Decay again because I played Blood
uh
Decay for season one because of Diurna and Razageth. I played it for season three because of Fyrak and Tindril, and actually mostly Fyrak. And it's like it's good for Skarn and some other things too in season two. So like I'm just playing it because it's just we want one. We're gonna play it, and
yeah,
that means my bullion is already determined. I'm buying the legendary upgrade next week.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so
That's funny.
yeah, that's you know, the other thing, the last thing I'll say about the current kind of bullion system is it definitely removed some pressure from like handling loot because it's so
Yeah.
much more free. You know, if you want a grief torch, even if it's like your fourth best thing, you can just go buy a grief torch.
Exactly.
Which
Yeah.
means that like if we get one to drop, we can give it out and be like, okay, listen, I know every single one of you wants this item, but we can only give it to one of you, and we're going to give it to one of you, and the rest of you can buy it, and we know that, and it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that happened. We had a weapon off of Taros, the instaff, I think,
Mhm.
and we ended up giving it to our Mistweaver because like the mages were like, well, we're just gonna buy a different weapon like
Next week.
next week with Dinar because it's like this is good for like the next couple days, but to be fair,
Yeah.
not best in slot. Like we'll replace it. So no, yeah, I mean I think it's cool. I will say the one thing that I wish is that the raids were easier. I think just in general, like and not that heroic, like you said, normal in 45 minutes. I think we were pretty much the same. Heroic, we had like I don't even think we wiped to Razagath, but we did wipe to Diurna and to uh what was it? What's the fire guy? Kurog that has the 4 elements or whatever.
Korog, yeah.
Yeah, we wiped there because our tags forgot you have to move him spots. Like you can't just sit in fire for
Oh, we
the
sat in
entire
fire the
phase.
whole time.
Oh no, we died on heroic easily. It was great. So yeah, so I mean like other than those two things, I just wish in general the difficulty was lower because like having again the reprogging of this stuff is just not it's just not fun. It's just not
Yeah.
fun. Like I got
I
CE, it's great.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's an element of like we intentionally like we went out of our way after our experience in season four of Shadowlands. We went
Yeah.
out of our way to be like, we are not reprogging. We are going to play the long game,
Yeah.
and we are going to come back to some of these harder bosses when we just outgear it, just hard outgear it. We're gonna do Dathia on Mythic when we can one platform that boss and not worry about the hard parts of the fight. Like we're just
Yeah.
not gonna sit there and reprog Dathia Mythic. And
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
like so there's things like we're gonna go hit Senarth, and Senarth is really 100% going like you were talking about this. It's just people have to play good.
Yeah.
We Taros, if for those that don't remember Vault of the Incarnates blog, Taros was the DPS check for Senarth. If you can kill Taros, you have the DPS for Senarth. So it's just staying alive and killing the big spiders in time. That's the only thing that matters for Senarth Mythic.
Yeah.
Kurog is another DPS check, followed by Dathia, that's another DPS check, and then Diurna, that's not, and then Razageth, that is a monster.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll see. I mean, I think we're on the same boat. It's just I just wish it was in general just I don't like reprogging stuff. That's my only downfall of season 4. I think
Yeah.
that the new bullion system is perfect. I think in terms of like the pace at which you'll get items and the fact that you can upgrade to the max, it's awesome. I just I wish it was
How do you
easier.
feel about the dungeons before we real
Oh, the
quick before we
dungeons.
move on?
It's cool to go back. I mean, like I think it's funny remembering back to season 1 when we did all those dungeons, like the ones that I hated as a healer, I still hate as a DPS. So like
Yeah,
Ruby Life
Ruby
Pools,
Life Pools.
unfun. And then funnily enough, Algathar Academy, it's essentially can you do the first pull and tree boss? Like that's the gauge on if it's going to be a great run. Because if you wipe at any point before that first boss, it's going to be bad. Like it's
Yeah,
going to be a slog.
I don't
So,
even. Well, at least on Tyrannical, right? I don't go there first. I go to the elemental boss, the arcane elemental. But we
okay,
lost that
okay.
because that boss is pretty rough. But like
The
tree
be-
boss is a lot more chill. Where if you can do one cycle, you can kind of do all of them. That kind of
yeah,
thing.
yeah. I think the groups that I'm in, because I'm like I generally pug a lot what I do. It's just it's it's like tough. Like we'll do the first like ad phase perfect, run around in a circle, great.
Yeah.
And then it progressively gets like all of a
No,
sudden there's ads like 40 yards away.
I will say that like I am playing that boss on a little bit of easy mode because I'm playing Blood DK, right?
You just
As
stay in
being
the
in
center.
Africa
Yeah.
does not matter
Oh, that's
because
true. Yeah.
I have grabby hands for the first one and that fixes that problem. I have Mascot for the second one, fixes that problem. Third one,
Yeah.
I don't have anything but like we haven't actually hit. I've been doing guild groups, we just haven't hit the third one.
Yeah. No, it's been, but I mean, other than that, they've been fine. Like, it's cool to go back to them. Like, I haven't been in Neltharis in like years, in like a year, and like that's a cool one to go back to. Like, I forgot about the chain
Chargath,
boss.
oh boy, the way they
Yeah.
changed Chargath took some figuring out. So for like that boss was so easy, too. So
Yeah.
easy. It was just like don't troll your group with chains and it's easy. Now it actually just destroys the tank.
Yeah.
They nerfed that boss, the damage done to the tank by 25%. And it's much more chill now. But yeah, it was a nightmare when I was
Yeah.
doing it on like Wednesday.
Yeah. But I mean, other than that, I think the dungeons are, I mean, it's a cool like throwback to start with. You have been in them for forever. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, yeah. I haven't really had any issues with it. It's cool. Yeah, I like them all, other than
Yeah.
Ruby Life Pulse, which even as a DPS is like super annoying to get two shot by some caster ad that you're like,
Yeah.
I don't have interrupts, I don't have a stun. Like my
But
group
you
is
don't have
like
a
not.
Vengeance Demon Hunter. That's clearly the issue.
Yeah, well, I just don't have. So stupid. They just do a stupid amount of damage. It's dumb.
Yeah.
Um,
The thing that I'll say that like season 4 of Shadowlands, I played a mage. I was a DPS that
uh
season. Going back and doing like Vault of the Incarnates again, but I'm playing the thing I played in Vault of the Incarnates originally. It's been
yeah,
really interesting to be like, oh, look at how much better I have gotten at like handling this stuff. So that's been kind
yeah.
of cool.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, no, I've been it's definitely it's a I will say I'm a lot more chill playing DPS and keys too than I was playing a healer. So it's a nice,
Yeah.
definitely a nice change of pace. So
Well,
um oh yeah, I want to move on real quick. We have the two news items, then we can get
yes.
into war within stuff. So um real quick, just two little news items that came out this week. Number one, BlizzCon is canceled this year. Blizzard made the decision not to hold it in 2024. But they will be doing some things to commemorate the 30th anniversary of Warcraft. So this is the 30th anniversary since Warcraft 1 came out. Um, we'll see what that means. It probably just means like smaller events.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no BlizzCon this year with the potential of BlizzCon coming back the following year. But we'll see. I mean, other than this kind of sucks to not have a BlizzCon 'cause I think that is a really cool time for people to get together, talk about the game. It's always fun. I imagine this has a little bit to do with, I think number one, Blizzard, other than The War Within coming out, not a ton of new games for this BlizzCon.
Yeah, that's true.
Uh, and then I think the other thing is the Microsoft merger in like changing some of the structure of how maybe Microsoft wants them to do events in the future. So,
Yeah.
um,
And these things they have to start planning them way the hell out.
oh yeah, they would have already had basically everything planned at this point, right?
Yeah.
Like in a normal BlizzCon year. So,
Yeah.
um,
The
so yeah, so that kind of stinks.
the real secret here is the actual BlizzCon is going to be at Anomaly's house.
No, wife would kill me. Uh, she can't handle it when I have like friends over to watch a race on weekends. So imagine like a couple hundred people showing up.
Yeah, well,
Uh,
that's what we're doing. A couple hundred people showing up at Anomaly's house in November.
Jesus. The other big news item is that we did get a release date for Miss Pandaria Remix. So May 16th, which is in 3-ish weeks at this point.
Is it? Yeah,
Um,
yeah, you're right. It is.
so in about 3 weeks, we'll get Miss Pandaria Remix, which we talked about this, I think, gosh, maybe 2 weeks ago. I'm super stoked for this. I'm probably gonna level up something just to have it leveled up and go through this stuff because it's really cool. And it's funny. This is it's a weird transition because I have a bunch of, like I've mentioned this before. A lot of my friends came back that I previously played Warcraft with to play Season Discovery. So they're like heavy into Season Discovery. I sort of pop in every once in a while, but they're interested in this and potentially coming back and playing retail,
Hmm.
which is actually kind of cool. So it's like an easy way to get a character up to max level. Some fun stuff that we all get to sort of experience together. So I'm
Yeah.
stoked. But May 16th.
We talked about this on the last episode. Like this is very much like season, like trying the Season of Discovery formula, but for retail.
Yeah.
Again, even more accelerated than Season of Discovery. Like everything releases at once, and it's gonna
Yeah.
last until probably the War Within pre-patch or release, and just be like,
Yeah.
this is our pre-patch leveling event. Um, we the early release is so weird. It's going to be releasing like the first week of the second rotation of season 4. And on the one hand,
Yeah.
I think that's fine. But on the other, it does really undercut people who want to take season 4 somewhat seriously, which we kind of as a guild kind of mutually decided that we're not. Like we're
Yeah.
taking it as seriously as we need to make sure that we're not wasting everyone's time in raid.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing I would say is that this event probably doesn't, like, it doesn't seem like it's going to cross over with someone who's going to it's going to cross over with someone who likes World of Warcraft in general and
Hmm.
plays a lot, but it's not going to cross over into the person who's like, well, I kind of want to dip my toes back into playing retail and like I want a max level character. Like, how do I do that? Because they're not
Yeah.
going to be heavy into season 4 stuff at that
Yeah,
point.
that's actually so. You say that my younger brother is thought about playing WoW before, but it's really intimidating to get into, and there's a lot to do before you can even like you would even be able to play with me at the end level stuff.
Yeah.
So there's actually some potential there where like if it works out with the other game releases going on at the time, which I don't know that I think it comes out enough before the Destiny 2. Uh,
Destiny 2 is June
yeah,
4th.
enough before that like they might be interested in giving it a shot. But that's the kind of thing where like, there is something really nice about taking this thing and making it something that is like you can engage with immediately as a new player and be playing with people who are longtime established players that are maybe your friends or maybe just people you haven't, like just people you run into.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, no, I think it's a cool thing. I mean, they one of the interviews, which I don't know if we'll get to talk about it, but one of the interviews Holly mentioned like this team is being like this experimental team is a team, like a
yeah.
fully set up team that sort of came out with Plunderstorm, is doing this remix thing. And Jeremy Fiesel is actually running it. So if you don't know, Jeremy Muffins is his in-game or Twitter handle.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's the secret guy, right? He's the guy who designed all the previous like nightmare mounts and all the weird secrets that were in WoW. So it's cool that, and those were always a fun, weird thing, right?
Yeah.
Like WoW didn't have a lot of like full community like secret stuff like that. So him in charge of this experimental team, I think is really cool. And I think them adding this additional stuff on top of the game is nice. I think there will become a point where it becomes a little bit of a well, actually, I don't think so. I just maybe talk a little about what Holly said because when this came up in the interview that Mr. GM did with Holly, they basically come in the context of like Plunderstorm being a limited release thing, and the main reason is it wasn't designed to be a like constant game mode. She's like, we designed
Right.
40 levels of renowned, and that's it. So
Yeah.
like when you hit 40, she's like, there's nothing else to do other than you love to play the game mode. So
Yeah.
there's no other rewards coming.
Which,
It wasn't set up to be extended. So I'm like,
yeah, Storm is fun. I would not have done the grind to 40 without the like double rep buff
in
that
the
they
both,
they
yeah,
released. But I think it actually really benefited as well from being a limited release thing because it's like the way that players treat it and evaluate it. Like I went and I played it as much as I felt like I wanted to, and then
yeah,
didn't play it anymore. And
yeah.
like
Like
so I enjoyed it, and you know, it's not going to become the Strand of the Ancients thing where like people are like, this is neat the first few weeks that it's out, and then they're like this sucks for the next 3 years of its out mode until it gets removed.
Yeah. I mean, I played it. I hit 40 and then never loaded back into another game. I think I might have done one duos with a buddy,
Yeah.
but like
Do
it's
yeah,
cool that they designed. The reason I brought it up is I think it's cool that they're designing things that are meant to be limited releases,
yeah,
because I think that's the interesting part of like you can do weirder things and potentially even fun things in that limited release capacity,
yeah,
and they can put it to the side of like the main game.
yeah,
So it's stuff you can jump into and try out or whatever. And if it's not for you, it's not for you, and you don't, quote unquote, you don't lose a raid tier because they designed this system, right?
yeah,
If you care about that, or like whatever it ends
yeah.
up being, which yeah. So that's cool. All right, well, yeah, remix May 16th. Get in there, play some of the best expansion, and then get to play two of the best raids that has ever released. So,
Yeah.
God, I should. So funny. Sorry, one aside thing. Hunter pets are now my new obsession. By the way,
Oh yeah,
I'm done with mounts.
yeah.
So I didn't realize you can get the Iron Juggernaut as a
Oh
pet.
yeah.
So like I did see
All the
Jargramar
old
and
raids.
got, oh dude, it was so I got what's his name, the dinosaur.
Yep.
He's my lust pet now.
Hmm.
I got the little scorpion, yeah, the Iron Juggernaut scorpion. That's my Master's Call pet. God, it's
You
so much
missed the
fun.
good old days where the raid mounts were bugged and they would be really big as hunter pets.
Damn it, you're right.
You missed it. The days
But
of
yeah, it was.
giant dinosaurs in Dalaran.
It's I didn't I had known about it because I think I got Cro-Magus when they first put that in with Beast
Yeah.
Mastery Hunter, like really well, like super long ago, and I never kept up with all the different sort of mounts you can have. So no, it's
Yeah.
cool. It's cool. I got the original Spirit, what is it?
Okay, Naha.
Spirit.
Or
Yeah, the
yeah,
the cat from
from Sholazar Basin.
Trishulazar Basin. Yeah,
Yep.
got them. Had to do some mastery or magic with that by creating a class trial on an RP realm, a low population RP realm, finding
God.
it, creating a group finder, inviting my hunter, like logging in and out of the game. Oh,
Yeah.
anyway, all right. Let's enough about my fun hunter shenanigans with
Yeah.
pets.
Yeah. So the other thing, Alpha came out in the past 2 weeks.
Yep.
I have Alpha. I don't think Anomaly has Alpha yet, but
I have no friends at Blizzard anymore, so
uh,
no alpha for me.
big unfortunate. I
Yeah.
still do. So I have Alpha, and I've been playing it, and I've done the dungeons. I've played with both Master of Harmony and Shadowpan as Brewmaster. I did the zone, um, all kinds of fun stuff. Master of Harmony is the new hero talent tree that we have not gotten a chance to talk about yet. So we're going to talk about that in a minute. It was super bugged the first week of Alpha release, so just super incomplete. Like half the talents were marked as not yet implemented. Some of them had like stuff, they were doing things, but they were very clearly wrong. So all kinds of bugged. But Shadowpan was in, so I've played with that a bunch. And yeah, it's the other thing. So I guess our kind of thing we're gonna talk about Master of Harmony,
Hmm.
or Hero Talent Tree, which is actually kind of divergent from Mistweaver and Brewmaster, but we can talk about it. And then the new class tree that we got, and then maybe also the new Mistweaver talent tree. I don't know how prepped you are to talk about that one though.
Yeah, we're good. We can talk about that a little bit. Yeah, there's a couple new talents in there, so we can go through those for sure.
Yeah. So the Master of Harmony tree. I'm gonna just pull up the description because I couldn't find it on Wowhead, so I had to actually log into the alpha to get this description of the stupid tree. This
Nice.
is not the description that I expected. What it reads is Master of Harmony chase physical perfection and the refinement of the body into pure strength, allowing them to tap into the flow of chi and natural cycles of power. This, like, thematically overlaps a lot with Shadowpan, which really confuses me. But, you know, this is the part of Shadowpan that I like. Less so the, like, ninja bits of
Yeah.
Shadowpan. So, you know, this is more my speed on the thematic level. Just get that out there before we dive into it. The tree. So we talked a lot about Shadowpan. How for Brewmaster it did not really fit. Like the
Yeah.
mechanics of the tree didn't work very well with Brewmaster's current kit. Shadowpan does, or not Shadow. Master of Harmony does.
Master Army. Yeah.
Master of Harmony sure does. Oh boy. Um. So yeah, let's go through this tree. So we're not going to go through every node. There's a bunch of utility in here. I'm going to talk about some of the interesting ones. But
Uh-huh.
the top node, the one you get first for just picking it at level 71, is Aspect of Harmony. So you store vitality equal to 20% of your damage dealt and 10% of your healing. For 10 seconds after casting Celestial Brew, I don't know what it is for Mistweaver,
Thunder Focus Tea.
Thunder Focus Tea.
Yep.
Your spells and abilities draw upon the stored vitality to deal 25% additional damage for 8 seconds. Is it additional healing for?
It's healing for Mistweavers, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So this is pretty good. Just as a baseline, like this is so much better than the first thing you get as Shadowpan for Brewmaster that like barely functions.
Yeah.
Like I've done Shadowpan in dungeons, and you get like I have logs of both Windwalker and Brewmaster, and you get literally 1/3 the number of Flurry Strike procs as Brewmaster as you do on Windwalker, because you just spend so much less energy. It's wild. It needs work. Anyway,
Yeah.
this one just kind of works. I think I don't know about for Mistweaver, but it sure as hell does for Brewmaster.
Yeah, I mean for Mistweaver, you're gonna end up hitting Thunder Focus Tea to empower your spells every 30 seconds anyway. So like the idea is you're gonna trigger this every 30 seconds. So every 30 seconds you have an additional 25, you have an additional amount of healing and potentially damage, right? Or sorry, only healing for Mistweaver. So an additional amount of healing on all of your spells. So it's just basically now you again turn Thunder Focus Tea into kind of a mini, maybe not a mini cooldown. That might be a little bit of a stretch, but like there's a mini burst of healing essentially every
Right.
30 seconds.
Yeah.
For Mistweaver. So it's not. I mean, it's nice. I think comparing it, we can compare and contrast it uh to the other one. The problem with kind of the Celestials, and they've changed this, but the cooldown reduction of that is very good for Mistweaver. So like
Yeah.
and so, like, whenever you get cooldown reduction versus just additional healing on a set timer, like, generally speaking, cooldown reduction, I think will win
Yeah.
out. But it's not bad. It's not bad.
Yeah. This one talent by itself currently is probably better numerically than the entire Shadowpan tree.
That's wild.
For Brewmaster. And obviously, like this is super early alpha. Numbers are going to change, but that's
Yeah,
to kind of put it into context where
that's
the
so funny.
how much the Shadowpan tree needs to improve.
Nice.
So immediately below that talent, we have some stuff buffing Chi Burst and Chi Wave, and we will talk a little bit maybe about Chi Wave. It's a passive now. It's still in the class tree, but it's now a passive. So it's not a button you have to push on your bars. So that's actually kind of like, oh, this actually seems a lot better knowing that Chi Wave is now just like a thing that you get for pushing your buttons against something you don't have to have. That like it's on my Z key. You know how often I push my Z key to push Chi Wave? It's not that often.
I've never had it bound. I don't think I have Chi Burst bound as a Mistweaver. So
But your Phalanx resets. Anyway, oh,
yeah.
you probably don't need that.
I don't need that in raid.
Yeah. We also have Balanced Stratagem. Casting a physical spell or ability increases the damage or healing of your next fire or nature spell or ability by 5%, and vice versa. Stacks up to 5 times. So this is actually kind of tilted towards kick weaving for Mistweaver, right? Where you use your like Rising Sun kick is physical, Blackout kick is physical, Tiger Palm is physical.
Yeah.
That's gonna buff your nature-based Vivify, right?
Yeah, your healing abilities that way. Yeah.
And for Brewmaster, this like is going to buff Breath of Fire, which is pretty cool. It's also going to buff. I think Keg Smash is actually fire damage, but don't quote me on that.
Nice.
And then we have the first choice node. The choice for Brewmaster is between Purified Spirit and Harmonic Gambit. So Purified Spirit reads, when Aspect of Harmony ends, any remaining vitality is released as damage over 8 seconds, split among nearby targets. So this basically like you build up your vitality pool by doing damage. You push Celestial Brew, it's going to do extra damage for a few seconds, and at the end, any damage that hasn't been spent is going to get dumped out by Purified Spirit.
Yeah, and so for Mistweaver, similar concept, except it's healing that's dumped out. So any healing that remains is basically spread across nearby targets.
Yeah.
I don't know if we have a target count for that, but Yeah, over 8 seconds, it gets nearby targets get healing. So
And then Harmonic Gambit is the other choice. During Aspect of Harmony, Expel, Harm, and Vivify. Withdraw Vitality to heal. I don't know.
oh, it's the opposite for Mistweaver. So it's same idea during Aspect of Harmony. Um, your Rising Sun Kick, Black Oak, and Tiger Palm also withdraw vitality to damage enemies. So it basically increases your damage during the
Yeah.
Aspect of Harmony.
So this is a really strange one. Like, I
Yeah, I
don't
don't.
see how you use Vivify as a Brewmaster on this. Like this, remember, you can't pick this as Windwalker. So this is not something where you can take this as a Windwalker in arenas, right? And like use it to like get a Giga Vivify off healing kind of stuff. Maybe you could do Brewmaster PvP. I don't know. Please don't.
I
Um,
don't know.
but I don't like the Vivify is really kind of out of place there. Expel Harm's good though.
Yeah,
I don't. I that was not implemented last week when I was playing around. I have not gotten back on Alpha yet to test. So I don't know how big this bonus is, but you do tend to use Celestial Brew when you need defensives and you need healing. So like, there's a good chunk of time where like, you're tanking Fire Egg and you hit Celestial Brew for one of the frontals, and then you immediately hit Expel Harm afterward to top yourself back up, and like, I could see that actually being useful to just make sure you actually get topped.
yeah,
And we'll get some into, again, like references to the class tree. Some of the current synergies with Expel Harm have been either removed or put into choice nodes. So there are fewer buffs to Expel Harm that are accessible for.
yeah. I mean, for Mistweaver, like, I guess essentially you'd use this for just additional damage, like during your harmony. So it may make sense to run this as like more of a Fistweaver or the Ancient Teachings build. Um,
Right.
so you have I don't know if this is because I don't have alpha, I can't directly test this, but if the additional damage does, oh no, because Ancient Teachings is all mastery now. Um,
Yeah,
oh
that's
no,
one of
it's
the
by
hard
damage
things is
one.
like
Sorry,
figuring out
yeah.
what these are like based on
Well,
changes to the classes, right?
yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, to be fair, if this feeds into additional healing from Ancient Teachings, this is potentially a good like dungeon one to
Right.
pull where you have like maybe in a raid you choose the other one. The
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 one
Purified
that,
Spirit, since you're
right.
not playing as much in melee, so
Yeah. The next row that we've got is a mix of utility and other stuff. And I'm going to just jump straight to what I think is the most exciting part of this tree and is enough reason for me. Like, you would have to. Shadowpan's got some work to do. Oh my god.
yeah.
Endless Draft, Celestial Brew has one additional charge. And I believe this is for Mistweaver, it's
Thunder Focus T.
Thunder Focus T has one additional charge.
Yeah.
This is really good. Uh,
Mm.
like there's a lot of cases in raids and dungeons where you want two Celestial Brews in relatively close proximity, and then you just don't need to worry too much. Like, you have sets of two and then big gaps. Something like the tree boss, the first boss of Azure Vault, we've got
Uh-huh.
back-to-back tank busters. And so being able to Celestial Brew both of those is really good, and then you've got a huge amount of time before the next one. So when this is good, it's extremely good. When it's, and then outside of that, it's just like fine, because what happens is similar to what happens with Keg Smash, where you're not pushing Celestial Brew on cooldown. The additional charge allows you to kind of pool that extra CDR that you would otherwise be wasting, and
Mhm.
just like kind of, it's a little bit of a kind of spiky optimization kind of thing, but it is good. It's good. It just like,
Having a second charge. Good.
yeah,
More charges. Good.
yep, yep. I don't know how Thunder Focus T having a second charge impacts Mistweaver at all, but like Celestial Brew, like, you don't need, like, this basically replaces that Black Ox Brew a lot of the time, which is fine. That means you get to take other things and spend that Black Ox Brew point on something else.
Yeah, so this does change a little bit from Mistweaver because what this allows is with the second charge. So we did have a talent in the spec tree that gave us an additional charge of Thunder Focus Tea. They've now changed that talent and moved that sort of functionality here. And so having two charges does allow us to buff. Now we could use two charges to buff two different spells of with Thunder Focus Tea.
Hmm.
And if you take Secret Infusion, this is based on Meg's testing. I was talking to her about this. You actually get both buffs. So you get
Oh,
a buff from the first spell and from the second. So now you can't double stack it. Like you can't cast like two renewing mists and get double haste buffs, right?
right.
So you can get two different buffs, which is
That's pretty
cool.
good.
So yeah, so there's a little bit of a change there with this. So no, it's yeah, it's I mean it's just an extra charge. So now we basically end up getting it not baseline, but we have to take this tree to get two Thunder Focus Tea charges. So
Yeah.
which is cool because they made a bunch of other like updates that aren't in the trees to the way some of our spells work. So trying
Yeah.
to keep up with that is cool.
And actually, the next talent to talk about kind of hints at changes to the Brewmaster tree.
Okay.
We have a choice node, and this is actually a super different choice node for Brewmaster and Mistweaver. So I'm going to talk about the Brewmaster one, and maybe it hints a little less at the changes to the Brewmaster tree. But the Mistweaver one is interesting. So we've got Mantra of Purity versus Mantra of Tenacity. Mantra of Purity, Purifying Brew removes 10% additional stagger. So this takes it from 50 to 60%. I think either that or it's an extra 5. Anyway, it Purifying Brew pures more. Purifies more. Anyway, and gives you a small absorb shield that absorbs incoming stagger. Just straight value. It's just fine. Yeah. And then Mantra of Tenacity is the other choice. Fortifying Brew applies a Chi Cocoon, and I am not a Mistweaver. What the hell is a Chi Cocoon?
So Chi Cocoon is the shield that goes on your party when you use evoke Chi G.
I
So
see.
when you use evoke Chi G, there's an initial shield that goes out
Okay.
on the on your team.
How big
So
is that shield?
I actually don't
Okay. And that
know off the
honestly
top of
that
my
might be
head.
changed
Yeah.
in Alpha too. So
Yeah.
like, yeah.
I mean, it was not like a massive shield. Like it's not like
Yeah.
a life cocoon, so it's not
Yeah.
gonna prevent a mechanic. But I mean, it's probably like probably like 10-15% of your health. So, or not, maybe not that
Yeah.
much, but like between 5 and 10% of your health. So it's something, right?
Yeah.
Um,
And then for Mistweaver, we have when cast on yourself, your single target healing spells heal for 10% more and grant a small heal over time for 6 seconds.
yeah, it's a
Now,
little bit of just self healing, which is as a healer, you very rarely need this. I'll say.
but what about soothing mist yourself for your Yulon ramp, and then you like
So it's Yulon ramp is a lot different now
okay.
because they got rid of clouded focus.
Oh, okay. So this is
So
like again trying to evaluate it versus like current retail
yeah,
what
like
doesn't
right
quite
now it'd be
work.
awesome,
Yeah,
but no, this is like it's you may take like the problem is it competes as a choice node with Mantra of Tenacity,
yeah,
which is for us. Maybe we get into that to show how this competes.
yeah.
It's
Let's
like
talk about Mantra of Tenacity. Uh,
Fortifying Brew grants 20% stagger for Mistweaver, which
that's
is
it's so much better than the Brewmaster one.
yeah, which is awesome. It's cool. It's sort of yeah. Again, well, you'll be able to mitigate a big hit and then mitigate some of the damage afterwards through the use of stagger, right?
Yeah,
Slowly trickling out. So
yeah,
it's you generally like you're not as a healer. You rarely will directly heal yourself unless you're going to take a mechanic. So in those
right.
cases, it's helpful. But like as a Mistweaver, a lot of your healing is either going to come from just like random hots like you're renewing mist spreading around and getting the cleave from Vivify, or just like
Yeah,
because a lot of our healing is like point based or player based. So like you're a part of that group that gets the sort of the AoE healing. I just see this one being
yeah.
the default choice
Like
because 20% stagger is like amazing. I feel like
there's
in
a lot
terms
of
of like additional
cases
regulation.
where stagger just doesn't do anything. Like if you're thinking like Fire Act, you have the Aflame dot, and Mantra of Tenacity kind of just doesn't do anything. It's a dot, kind of getting a dot. You're just
Yeah,
you're just like taking the same damage through stagger instead. With no access to purifying stuff, it's just diffusing the damage instead of removing it. But then there's cases where like you do a dungeon and you're gonna get, you. It's a good example. You have like the. I'm gonna keep going back to this because it's a great example. The first boss of Azure Vault, when it does
Uh-huh.
the thing where it uproots all the trees and you hit Fortifying Brew and it's like that one damage event, 20% mitigation. You can heal through this dagger. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, it's it's an interesting choice note. I just don't see Mantra of Purity getting a ton of play unless
Yeah,
like there is like I can see it in maybe some specific mechanical senses where
yeah,
like you're going to take a direct mechanic on a fairly regular basis, and so
yeah,
it makes sense to have more additional self healing. But like in general, you're going to stack leech as a healer anyway. That's a ton of self healing.
yeah.
So
I do think it's worth noting there was a pretty popular conduit in Shadowlands for Fortifying Brew that gave you a shield when you cast Fortifying Brew. It was nice. It really helped the cooldown feel more impactful immediately.
yeah,
And so Chi Cocoon for the Brewmaster version kind of sort of does that. My recollection of Chi Cocoon is it was kind of Ridley Shield and doesn't really compare to that conduit. Um,
yeah, no, it's not that big.
but that does maybe it's a solid maybe. I if it read Fortifying Brew grants Life Cocoon, I would be really excited, but I think that would probably be too good
Yeah, that'd be a little wild, little wild.
because
So
Life Cocoon right now is really good.
yeah,
Um, yeah, and then the last choice node on this road focuses on Tiger's Lust. And I don't know how you feel about this, but Brewmaster's always. Oh, actually, another class tree change. Tiger's Lust is not mandatory for Brewmaster anymore.
oh nice.
Um, which, I mean, I'm still going to always take it. But anyway, the two choices are casting Tiger's Lust reduces the remaining cooldown of roll by 5 seconds. And then Tiger's Lust grants 20%. 20%. God, I cannot.
Speed.
20% speed to two allies near its target. Which, the first one's whatever. I like the second one. It's a neat utility bit.
Yeah, it's at least the way that I typically am using Tiger's Lust. Like, I don't know how much either of these matter, right?
Yeah,
Like I will typically, at least for Mistweaver, like we'll use it. I'm Brewmaster might be similar for like clearing roots or potentially a specific debuff, right? And because it's just the heal, like the speed increase on
yeah.
allies around the person you cast it on, it's nice, but I don't think
Yeah.
mandatory.
This is like
Um,
a nerfed version of the Torghast power that made Tiger's Lust AoE, right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
And I use Tiger's Lust just to run around a lot. There's a lot of cases where I don't want to roll because I'm tanking something and doing the jerky movements with roll is not good for people, but I still
yep,
want to move quick. So doing that and just like incidentally giving a couple of melee a speed boost, it's not like earth shattering, but it's like okay, I'm happy to have it, right?
yeah, yeah.
Um, and then the last row, we're not gonna. Oh man, but they keep they just they just have every talent in this tree I want to talk about. Okay.
Yeah.
And it kind of sucks also because it's every talent in the tree kind of has variations for both
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
decks.
It's not. Yeah, it's not the same.
Um, it's very. This is this is a tree that has a very neat kind of yin yang thing going on where the Brewmaster thing is like a reflection of the Mistweaver thing, and you just like flip it back and forth, and it's kind of neat. But
Yeah.
we have Overwhelming Force, Rising Sun Kick, Blackout Kick, and Tiger Palm deal 15% additional damage to enemies in a line in front of you. Damage reduced above 5 targets. This is
It's
just
AoE.
cool.
It's just AoE. It's just like frontal AoE damage. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's good damage too. Like these are good spells. All right, there's Tiger Palm in there, but like Blackout Kick and Rising Sun Kick are good spells.
Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, it's just an additional like AoE damage now. So we get to like potentially not just hitting spinning crane kick anytime we want to AoE things as a Mistweaver. So
Yeah. Um, so that's good. I have not read the Mistweaver version of this one, but we're going to. Clarity of
it's
Purpose. Casting Purifying Brew stores vitality increased based on your stagger level. So this is going to be like you purify, that's going to buff your Celestial Brew. It's also going to buff your Aspect of Harmony damage that you deal when you use Celestial Brew. So that's neat. The
yeah,
Mist,
and the Mistweaver one is casting Vivify stores vitality and it's increased based on your recent gust of mist.
what does that
So
mean?
Not sure exactly. I would
Okay.
assume that it's basically the increase is based on how high like your like it's a function of your gust of mist healing.
Okay.
So like essentially you cast Vivify to trigger the storage, but the amount you store is based on your gust of mist healing.
Right.
So a little bit of a mastery interaction there.
Yeah. So like Brewmaster, it's pretty. I don't know if I'd say straightforward, but it's something that's well understood. We have 3 stagger levels. When something like this
Yeah.
happens, it's like there's level 1, level 2, and level 3 based on how high your stagger is. So that's
Yeah.
like pretty standard. I don't. The Mistweaver one is. I've never seen text like that.
It's just it's weird like I think it's a way to like not it's basically a way to make mastery potentially more desirable for Mistweaver because,
Yeah.
like in general, the mastery it doesn't seem like it's changing based on everything else in the tree. So
Yeah.
it's just we have not enjoyed this mastery since it was introduced,
So ever.
and so ever. So this just is a way to make mastery have some additional value, is the way I'm reading it. So
Yeah. And then lastly, the final choice node, Wave 1,000 Strikes, Rising Sun Kick, Blackout Kick, and Tiger Palm contribute 50% additional vitality. So this is just these abilities are going to make your uh, damage done from Harmony that much more. I don't
Mhm.
know whether this is this the same for
It's the
Mistweaver.
same. It's the same for Mistweaver. Yeah.
Okay. So this is your kick weaving talent for Mistweaver. And then Path of Resurgence. Chi Burst increases vitality stored by 25% for 10 seconds. This is kind of an interesting one. Because it's not Chi Burst stores 25% additional vitality. It is you push Chi Burst, and for the next 10 seconds, all of the vitality stored is increased by 25%.
Yeah. Which
So,
which gives you a reason to push the button. I think this is the idea that you it's sort of the other talent is more of a consistent, you know, just increase in vitality that you store based on hitting
right.
buttons you're probably hitting anyway.
Yeah.
Right. And then this is like, okay, for a shorter period of time, if you have a cooldown running or like you're about to do like in Mistweaver case, if there's going to be an AoE event and you have like Yu'lon you're about to hit or whatever cooldown you hit,
Right.
you chi burst right before that, and now you're getting a bunch of vitality stored, and then you can Thunder Focus Tea after your cooldown to
And
have
get a
like an
big.
even a longer
Yeah.
like healing throughput piece. So
Yeah.
um yeah, it seems an interesting way to change. I mean, again, it makes Chi Burst a button you probably want to hit using this. So I think this is just the
Yeah.
concept of like, do you want like a typical passive ability that just gives you more vitality, or do you want sort of active ability you hit to trigger like something that also
Yeah.
increases your vitality? So
So I think there's a important note for like the Brewmaster comparison on these. One of these, Wave 1,000 Strikes, these are all 3 single target abilities. Like technically, Rising Sun Kick and Blackout Kick, you still use an AOE all the time,
yeah,
but they are fundamentally single target abilities. If you're dealing with large AOE, they're not going to scale into that as well. Path of Resurgence does. So there is a kind of a AOE versus single target choice here, where if you think of like on a raid boss, you take Wave 1,000 Strikes because it's just going to add more over time than what Path of Resurgence is. But then for Mythic Plus, maybe you take Path of Resurgence, and the first thing you do in a pack, right, is you chi burst that pack. And you go nuts. You hit your kegs. You hit Exploding Keg. You do all your damage, and then you hit Celestial Brew, and you get even more damage out of it from that. And so there's some potential there.
yep.
The capstone. Coalesce. When Aspect of Harmony deals damage, it is a chance to spread to a nearby enemy. When you directly attack an affected target, it has a chance to intensify. Targets damaged or healed by your Aspect of Harmony take 10% increased damage or healing from you.
I don't understand like what it like again. It just seems like our the Mistweaver one reads very similar, except it's healing. So like
Yeah.
aspect of healing will has a chance to spread to a nearby ally when you heal them, and then when you directly heal the affected target, has a chance to intensify. I don't know what that means. I don't know if you have done or seen any testing with
This
it.
was not implemented last week, so I have
Yeah,
not gotten to do testing with it yet. The
just give me a percentage. I'm assuming it means like
I
instead
mean,
of
okay,
having 25%
let's let's ignore the whole
additional.
first part, right? Let's ignore the whole first part, and it just says you deal 10% increased damage for 10 seconds after casting Celestial Brew, or you do 10% increased healing for 10 seconds after pushing Thunder Focus Tea.
Yeah,
That's good.
decent, decent. Yeah.
it's good.
Yeah.
Like just on numbers, that's good. The other stuff, there's some potential for like, if Harmony is implemented as like a dot for Brewmaster or for Mistweaver, and then you like, you know, you have it out and you've applied your Harmony dot to people. If it functions kind of like Ignite, where it's like accumulating damage on a target,
That's true.
and then hopefully doesn't get the old Ignite behavior where it like clones the damage around and does really ridiculous damage numbers, because that's not healthy for the game. It's just flat out not healthy for the
Yeah. Yeah.
um, but some neat like kind of Ignite spread things maybe. Um, some stuff like copying renewing mists kind of on the healing side potentially. We'll see. I'm probably gonna get on alpha after raid tonight and poke around. But yeah, some real trees really good.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to talk about. And I think, like I mentioned at the top, I mean, the biggest problem, like the biggest problem I have with this tree is that, like, depending on how they end up tuning Condo to the Celestials,
Right.
like the CDR is just,
So strong.
it's just very like having your
Yeah.
cooldowns up quicker for any class. Like
Yeah.
you could give Brewmaster like conduit to the Celestials tree, and like it would be maybe a difficult tree to like compare with this one, right? Like,
Yeah.
so, but yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting concept with this whole like storing healing and triggering it off of Thunder Focus T, at least
Yeah.
for Mistweaver. It'll be fun to play around with and mess around with, see what works. I mean, hopefully they get the balance right where like you trade like a consistent every 30-second amount of additional healing with this
Yeah.
tree versus like, hey, if I play my cards right, I got my cooldowns up sooner, but at a more random interval, right?
Right.
And so, um, yeah, it's I'm happy at least with the first pass of this, and
Yeah.
we'll see how the rest of the tuning plays out with alpha.
Yeah.
So
I think that there's definitely a difference here between our perspectives on this. That's just down
yeah,
to Shadowpan is not a good tree for Brewmaster right now.
yeah,
Conduit of the Celestials is a good tree for Mistweaver right now.
yeah, exactly. So like we have a choice, and we have something we compare it against. It's almost
Yeah.
like the reverse, right? Where
Yeah.
this looks good, not great. Kind of Celestials looks great, and
Yeah.
is what it
Yeah.
is. So
Um,
um,
I want to take a little bit to talk about the changes to the class tree. We're not going through all of them because, I mean, go look at it on Wowhead. I'm pulling it up on stream right now, but just go look at it on Wowhead. It's
yeah,
totally different. It's been like I mentioned, like Tiger's Lust is not the basic node for Brewmaster anymore. Paralysis is.
yep,
And there's a bunch of other changes. Chi Wave got revamped. It is now a passive that so what it reads is every 15 seconds, your next Rising Sun Kick or Vivify fires Chi Wave. And so just like bunch of changes to the tree. I do want to highlight um, a couple of things. Cat statue is gone. Uh, Nobody will miss it, honestly. But as part of that, Ox statue is so much easier to access. You actually have to kind of work hard to not take Ox statue as Brewmaster, and you definitely can. There are choices, but like Ox statue for Brewmaster is going to be much more accessible. I know that was a pain point this expansion as somebody that ended up playing Ox statue on Sarkareth. Like it just costs a lot of points to access. It was really frustrating. So that's a lot more accessible, but the most exciting talent in the tree is this one called Lighter Than Air. Roll causes
it's
you to
gonna come.
become lighter than air, allowing you to double jump to dash forward a short distance once within 5 seconds.
It's
I don't.
super cool.
um, you can do some fun things with this because it doesn't actually care if you went anywhere with roll. So, like, you can dismount, roll in the air, and then hit your jump button before you hit the ground and reset your falling distance and take no damage.
Yep.
You can
Yeah.
roll off a cliff for that fun momentum and then just hit jump before you hit the ground, get a little extra distance, and also take no falling damage.
Yeah. I will say the only problem with this, which is why it being tied to roll makes it a little awkward to use, is that when they say forward, like dash forward, it's always where your character is pointing, not where you might be holding the direction. So like with roll, you can
Yeah.
strafe right and roll, and you will roll right even if you're facing
Yes.
forward. But this will always make you jump forward.
one
where
of
you're
the
facing.
one
So
of the other new role talents, rushing reflexes. Your heightened reflexes. I'm gonna skip. You do a dash at the end of your roll to an enemy target that's in front of you within 10 yards, which has some unintended interactions. I would say, because if you backwards roll, it will immediately dash you back to them. So you can no longer use backwards roll basically in combat.
oh, interesting.
Um, so that's one where I like rushing reflexes really should respect the direction uh of your roll. Like
Hmm.
maybe it should just entirely be disabled for a backwards roll because I don't really want to dash to something I can't see behind me. But like side rolls, maybe respect the direction, and at the very least, if I back roll, I don't want to go back forwards.
Yeah.
Um, but it would be cool if the mini dash from Lighter Than Air also respected direction. If you could like do a strafe dash and a back dash, like that sounds cool. Like I've played with this on alpha. It's a fun talent. I
Yeah.
like it. It is probably my favorite part of the new tree, aside from potentially Blackhawk statue no longer being a pain in the ass. But it would be cool if it respected your movement keys. That would be really cool.
Yeah. And just so everybody knows, like the Ox statue, that node changes
Oh, it
depending on the
does.
spec.
I didn't even
Yeah,
know
so
that.
For Mistweaver, it's Soothing Mist, and then
Or
or
Jade Serpent
sorry, Jade
statue.
Serpent statue, and then for Windwalker, it's not a statue, it's just the cat statue now triggers every time you use Wind. So you don't actually have a
Yeah.
separate statue to
Okay.
place down. It's still the cat statue, it's just the trigger point is using Zwin.
Yeah.
So or Zuin. So yeah, it does change talent wise. And then the only other one that changes, just so you're aware too, is Dance of the Wind, which is a
Yep.
choice node for you guys. It's for you, it's just a flat 10% dodge for
Yes.
Brewmaster. And then for Windwalker and Mistweaver, it's like uh it's a stacking dodge chance. So like
It's
it's a
Brewmaster Mastery, but for Mistweaver and Moonwalker, but without the
right
flat
without
scaling.
the yeah. So like every you basically get 10% dodge and then it stacks by 10% every 4 seconds. You don't dodge until you reach 90% dodge, basically. Um and then when you
Oh,
dodge, it'll reset
actually
back to
that
10.
is different. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't require you to actually
Get hit.
get hit.
So
It
like you
just
get
automatically every
yeah.
4 seconds
Yeah.
get 10%
Okay.
more dodge chance. So
Yeah.
which will be interesting in raid encounters because if sometimes you have abilities that are targeted, they might not you're not getting hit by the boss, but the ability might target you, and you have the
Yeah.
ability to miss or to dodge it. So I
There's
wonder if that
there's
becomes
a
a
bunch
thing.
of sneaky ones of those. For example, the Festermouth boss in Brackenhide Hollow, his thing where he eats the tank can be dodged and parried.
Oh, cool.
And he doesn't get the enrage buff if you do that. So Brewmaster can do the thing where you like stack up Master. I'm pretty sure. I'm playing Blood Decay right now, and I know I just randomly avoid it sometimes with Dancing Rune, right?
Yeah.
Which is a huge parry buff. I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
you can do the Brewmaster thing where you like stack up Mastery and then don't get eaten. But yeah, it's
Nice.
so there's some sneaky things like that you can just dodge, like
Very cool. Yeah,
um
but they've massively changed the class tree. So
yeah
like nothing is the same,
yeah.
I'll say. So
We have a bunch of interviews that we did not talk about. I don't know if there's any specific things you want to pull in before we wrap up the show for the day.
no, I mean, I think the biggest thing was that just that Holly comment on the fact that
Yeah,
Jeremy Fiesel's sort of running that experimental team. The
yeah,
rest of the interviews are really good. The story ones are cool. The Nagura interview is solid. I guess the Taliesin and Evitel one around the story is cool just to get a little bit of background of
yeah,
the fact that like they've basically just on the story piece, like Blizzard knows how this arc ends. Like they
yeah,
have written how it ends and they sort of know how they get there with I think general plot points, but there's still a little bit of wiggle room for I think how they change some of those pieces. But
yeah,
at least now it seems like we are starting this whole 3 expansion arc with a starting point and an ending point that is connected
yes.
somewhat. So which is cool. So we'll see how maybe we'll care about the story now. But
We'll see how it plays out. I will say that
yeah.
like Dragonflight's story was a good reset.
Yeah.
I was actually thinking about recently, it's very interesting how like for most of BFA um and Shadowlands, there really wasn't a person or people group under threat at any point by any of the things. It was all just like vague, the universe, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But there were here, right?
Yeah.
So that, you know, changed the story. I don't know. It was interesting. It made it land, I think.
Yeah. No, it's yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the rest of this whole World Cell saga plays out with the three expansions. But it seems like story wise they've essentially written the ending
Yeah.
for all intents and
Yeah.
purposes. So, but no, none of the other interviews. There's a bunch of stuff. I think the bigger thing, and this is probably maybe where we start next week, is there is a lot of data mine information and also some of it from the interviews themselves, but that talk about like the systems in general,
Yes.
like systems that are staying, systems that are changing. Um, Really, the only brand new thing that's come out is Delves. There's a couple interviews that talk about Delves. So
Yeah. And I mean, I've done a couple of them. We can talk about those next week too. And I will say a little bit hit or miss so far. A hit or miss so far.
yeah, there need. I'm my viewpoint of it is like this is their shot at Torghast 2.0, and I don't know
I
if
don't
it
think
hits.
Torghast is like a great comparison point.
Okay, cool. Then I'm on board
But
because at least
yeah.
what I've seen or like read, it's at least in my mind that's how I've started to parallel it. So I
Yeah.
will stop doing that then.
Um I don't want to make this podcast too much longer. And I do want to mention the Towley interview. They ask about tank threat and get an interesting answer. Um, the short version, not to bait you guys too hard, the short version is no significant changes to tank threat, but they want it to not be a like real problem that you're fighting all the time. But that's kind of how things are right now. Threat's not a huge problem except in keys. All
Yep.
other buttons on pull, looking at you, human hunters. And devastation evokers. Oh my
Yeah.
god. Dragon Rage and they get all the pyres and then all of a sudden they have all the threats.
Yeah, we lost a dragon on the actually on the trash on the tree boss in Algathar, so that is definitely a thing.
But yeah, I think that is going to be it for the show today. We have with every alpha season, we just have so much to talk about. So
Yeah.
we're going to be back. We're going to talk about a bunch more of this next week.
Yep.
But for today, that's going to be it for the show. Thank you all for watching and or listening. I'm sorry this has not been getting uploaded to YouTube. I'm going to get that fixed this week. And yeah, if you want to support this show and the other work that we do over on the Peak of Serenity, you can do that over at our Patreon at patreon.com/peakofserenity. And of course, come and join the Discord. It is the best place to theory craft, fieldy craft, whatever about the new hero talent trees and talk about the things you would like to see. Both in the changes like Mistweaver talent tree, spec tree has been changed. Brewmasters has not yet. So maybe there's a chance that we get some pretty
Ooh.
cool stuff. I will say we have no explicit statement that it's going to get remade, but there's clash in the class tree now, and the clash that's in the spec tree no longer works. It does not give you clash. So there's a pretty good chance something's changing.
Yeah, probably.
But yeah, that is going to be it for the show today. Thank you all for listening, and we will see you next week.
Bye.